Dan Fernandez sensei is becoming a very, very good friend of mine. He began Aikido many, many years ago and was the chief instructor at Tampa Aikikai. Recently, he's sixth dan, recently relocated to Nashville where his son lives. And his plan was to open a dojo there. And then, da da da. So, from what Dan's been telling me, that is, when things settle down, that's still the plan. So I'm very, very grateful that we can be here today and experience your class. So, onegaishimasu.
Onegaishimasu.
Well, thank you, Sensei. First of all, I want to say I'm honored that you asked me to do this. And I also want to say that along the lines of something you said, there is not just one way to do any particular technique. So what I offer you today, treat it like a buffet, use what you like and ignore the rest. So, and it's just, my interpretation, and as Ikeda Sensei often says, there isn't one Aikido. An instructor, all an instructor can do is show you their way, and then you have to develop it your own way. For example, I never thought I'd learn Iriminage, and now it's become my favorite technique. So we grow as we go. And I'm in a very small apartment, and what you're seeing behind me is my refrigerator. So I'm using the kitchen because it's got a long corridor. It makes me think of a teacher that one time said you should be able to do Aikido in a phone booth. Although these days there aren't any phone booths, but my kitchen, the width of my kitchen is about the size of a phone booth. So I wanted to hit 4 themes today. One is why we do what we do, and Lisa Sensei talks about that a lot in our Zoom classes during the week. A second thing that was emphasized to me, I had an opportunity to talk with Kanai Sensei years ago, and about the most important things in Aikido. And the first thing he grinned and looked at me and said, the most important thing is get out of the way or get offline. And then something that I've been learning from Ikeda Sensei, which is connection. And then Lisa Sensei, you've already discussed this and had us work on this, but balance. So those are the 4 themes that I want to interweave. And I want to start by using Shomenuchi Ikkyo. And then if there is time, a transition into Shomenuchi Iriminage. So, and just don't mute yourselves. If you have a question, I can't see the chat if I'm not right here at the computer. So if you have a question, just speak up and ask. And if someone does put something in the chat, either Kei or Sensei, would you please read it to me? Read the question to me. Okay. So let's bow in. Onegaishimasu. Okay, let me see how to position this. First of all, let me grab a book here. One thing that I've always wondered about was why would somebody come in and do Morote Dori on one arm when the uke has another hand, 2 feet, 2 knees to still strike with. And it began to make sense when I thought of it this way. Because if you picture uke, I'm going to be uke for a minute. If I'm uke and that sword is coming down and I move here, then so uke has now evaded the sword. What am I going to do next? I'm going to go that way. So it makes more sense to think about Morote Dori when there's a sword involved. And I think a lot of times, and we've talked about this in Lisa Sensei's classes, a lot of times when we train, we're training more like choreography as opposed to thinking about why we're doing what we're doing. And so I think that's one thing that these Zoom classes have made me more conscious of is that we need to, as Sensei said, use our minds. We need to think about why we're doing what we're doing. What purpose does it serve? Why would we choose that particular attack? Why would we choose that particular technique? Now, so here, and if you have a bokken, you're welcome to go grab it. So the Shomenuchi Ikkyo, if you think of this bokken as Uke's right arm, this is Uke's right arm coming at me. So I want to end up catching the arm here. Well, first of all, this is the arm coming down, the hand coming down to hit me. So in light of the, let me see if I can show you where can you see my feet?
Right.
All right, so assume you're in a right hanmi. And this is Uke's right arm coming down at you. So as Kanai Sensei taught me, the most important thing to do is get out of the way. So if you're in right hanmi, here's what I would do. A little sidestep. And turn before I come in. So try that if you like, on either side. The sword is coming, the hand is coming, you get off the line. The hand is coming, you get off the line. The sword is coming, the hand is coming, you get off the line. I have a sword in my hand, so I keep saying sword. The hand is coming at you, get off the line. Now, what do you do if you're in a left hanmi, and you're still striking with the right hand? The right hand is still coming at you. Do you say, wait a minute, I've got to change my foot position? No. What you do is the back foot, here, let me get where you can see my feet. The back foot shifts into that position. And I point my toes toward Uke. Now so try that in a left hanmi with Uke striking with the right hand. Just enter and shift. And the wall is stopping me from moving as much as I'd like to. Let me move over a little bit. So you're in a left hanmi, it's a right-handed attack, and you're going over here. Try it on both sides. You're in a right hanmi, and a left hand comes at you. Try that a few times. Now, another thing that, if you can adjust this, this is Uke's arm, and of course we want to end up in a position where we're grabbing the arm, right? My right hand is on this part of Uke's arm. My left hand, assuming it's Uke's right arm, my left hand is on the upper part of the arm, okay? But if any of you are fairly new in the art, you don't want to go in that way, because if your timing is off, you could end up damaging your thumbs. Go in with the palm heel initially. And then you can, once you've got the arm, then you can grab. Now, it's a question of timing in terms of, are there any questions so far? Comments?
No questions in the chat yet.
Okay. So now if this is Uke's arm, why would I, and again, this is a question of timing, when would I when would I enter on this and come in here? If your timing is right, and what I've taught students in the past is, you're in a stance, and as I'm going to try to do the schizophrenic thing here and be uke and nage at the same time. As uke's hand goes up, think of it. This is uke's hand. This is nage's hand. Think of a string being attached between uke's hand and nage's hand, so that as it goes up, you're right, or like riding the wave. And if you can enter in time as this is going up, then that type of entry will work. So let's try that. Try as uke's hand goes up, you're catching it, and then think about where you want to, what you want to do here. And that's where the connection and the balance come in. So as Lisa Sensei was teaching, do I want to push uke straight back into this back foot? I think not. So what we're looking for is get them into the 0 spot, as she was saying, and then to this other 0 spot here. So try that. Try that as uke, and then try it as uke first, and then try it as nage. Okay, well, let's try putting the early part together with that. So uke is striking with the right. Get a right hand me, please. Uke is striking with the right hand. I shift over, and right here I'm offline, but I've caught it. I've caught it while uke is still going up. So I have uke here. And this is something that you just have to feel. And it's hard to do without an actual uke, but think about in terms of at this point of contact that you want to, with your body, not the arms. And that's another part of connection. Your arms and your body need to be connected, and your work needs to stay in front of you. So feel here, if you can, what you want to do with uke's balance. And what I do is, from my center, I think about the energy flowing through my arms into uke's arms and to that other far shoulder, to shift their balance slightly, to start taking their balance. Okay, then I can bring them down the rest of the way. If you go in and just try to push the arm, you're really not taking their balance. So for purposes of this one, again, it's the one where you've gone in and you caught it as it's coming up. Maybe tilt uke back to that dead zone, and then you can do this motion. So think about that as you come in, you're connecting, you're altering Uke's balance, you're setting them off balance, and then bring them down the rest of the way, step in and take them down. So try that. And the connection aspect of it, I think, is critical in terms of taking Uke's kuzushi, taking their balance. And that's something that I've really tried to focus on ever since I started, well, learning that from Ikeda sensei. I don't know how many years ago he started focusing on connection. But okay, so we've done it from with it right hanmi, with Uke striking with the right hand. Now get in left hanmi, and Uke is striking with the right hand again. So let me tilt this so you can see my feet. Okay, so I'm in left hanmi, Uke is striking with right here. Connect, take the balance, and then down, in, and down. If you're in left hanmi, Uke is striking with, I'm sorry, you're in right hanmi and Uke is striking with the left hand. Again, go in, connect, take the balance, take them down, step in, down. Now, one thing that I do that in this part of the movement here, when I take Uke to this position, here, I don't step in until I have Uke with their head practically on the ground, on the mat. Because if I step in, and this is just my preference, if I step in like this and Uke is still not off balance, they can grab this leg. So I do it with a hip twist, get Uke low enough, and I'm still controlling them by connecting with the arm to the body, and then I move in. So that's one way of doing it. It's not the only way, but that's the approach I use. So let's try those where you're not in the optimal position, but you can come from the back foot. Here, down, connect, off balance, and then complete the technique. So try that if you'd like to. Is there a question? Oh, no, okay. Okay, now, what if your timing is later? In other words, you weren't able to catch it here, that it's already coming down. Well, the approach I would take there is similar to what Lisa Sensei was doing when we would grab and absorb the energy to do a tenchinage. So if the arm is already on its way down, then what I would more likely do in that situation, again, get offline, but absorb it. Absorb it. Just ride it down instead of trying to push it across Uke's face. I would just let me move this so you can see my feet. So I'm okay now. All right, so that right arm is coming at me and I blend with it. And maybe just bring them straight down. Same thing on the other side. The hand is coming in. I'm late. I just get offline. And I have a couple of choices here. I can either take them straight down, or if their balance is wobbly enough, I can take them over that way. So let's try that. Imagine that you're late, the strike is coming in, absorb it, and take them down that way. Try that if you'd like to, please.
Sensei Oniyashimasu, I have a question.
Sure.
Do you see all of these as ura? I'm struggling with where I'm going in relationship to my uke, if I think about it as a mote.
The first one that we did, I view it as omote. This absorbing it could be either. So let me illustrate. If the right hand is coming in and I shift to absorb it, take uke down here, I have the choice to step in and across. And there's your omote. If I absorb it here, I also have the option to do ura. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. The entry parts are the same, whether it's omote or ura. The difference is what you do after you've got uke off balance and leaning over. And this approach to the well, let me go back to, since you asked that question, if we go back to the one where you're catching it early, you're riding it up, riding the arm up. So we go in, we're here. What we did was omote, but if you again do this, now you have the ura version of it. So either of these, the getting in early or getting in late, either one of them can be done omote or ura. Now, I think in the real world, the more likely thing that you would experience rather than a shomenuchi, unless somebody has a weapon in their hand, a stick or something that they're trying to hit you with, more likely it's going to be a punch. Somebody's coming at you with a punch. So you can do the same thing. Imagine that it's a punch instead of shomenuchi. And which of the two versions do you think would make more sense with a a punch to the face. The
The
first one
absorb,
or the second one?
the second one.
Yeah, exactly. And so what you would do is, again, evade, get off the line, connect, and then absorb. And you can either just come straight back with them, or you can take them down. Oop. So we've absorbed, connected, taken the balance, and then we have a choice. Actually, three choices that I can think of. One is to just keep them going this way. Another would be to step in, and then there's our omote. And then the other option would be, once we've connected, taken the balance, enter, turn, and there's our ura. I don't know. I don't really have a name for this one, where you've gotten off the line, you've connected, got their balance, and you just keep them going straight down. I guess that's a variation on the omote. So try that. Visualize that somebody is throwing a punch, and you're using this absorption method to take them down. Try that if you can. Okay, let me just review a few things before moving on to Iriminagi. So you're in left hand, you're in right hanmi, and uke is attacking the right hand. We get off the line, we connect, take uke's, we affect uke's balance with body movement, okay, not just the arms. You have your arms and your body have to have connection. You and uke have to have connection. Otherwise, the techniques won't work. So you offset your balance and then take them down the rest of the way and either enter omote or ura. If you're in the right hand, sorry, the left hand, uke is attacking with the right hand. Again, we bring the back up. Bring the back foot up. Deflect the arm, connect, offset the balance, and again, either step in omote or step in and turn it up. And as I mentioned, when I do, I'll use my vocab here for a minute. When I do this part of it, I don't step in until I have uke fully off balance, then I can step in to complete the technique in either the omote or the ura version. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Please unmute yourself if you have questions or post them in the chat. There's none in the chat right now.
Thanks, Kay.
And sensei, a ski to the stomach versus a ski to the face.
Yes.
So I'm in the habit of moving. So the stomach, I'm in the habit of moving that arm very, very close to me. In fact, even into the hip. In the face, there is no hip. So it seems a bit wieldy. Can you address how that's really is? How do you stop that from really? Well, you take the person off balance and they can't do anything with it, but it seems much more difficult when it's coming at my face.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't try to do an ikkyo if it's a punch to the muniski, punch to the stomach. I wouldn't try to do an ikkyo type technique there. That would be more conducive to kotegaeshi or udekemi nagi, any number of other techniques. But the thing with the punch to the face is, again, you've got to absorb it, like we were doing when we were doing tenshi nagi in the first class, but you've also got to establish connection. So once you touched uke, you're immediately taking their balance away from them, and yeah, it's not near the hip like if you're doing a kotegaeshi, but it's in that connection. And I analogize it to this. I'm sure everybody's flown a kite at some point in their life. And what happens if you let the string go slack? The kite starts to fall. What happens if you yank the string too hard? You might break the string or the kite. But there's this perfect tension between you and the kite that keeps it in the air where you want it. So it's similar to working with uke, that you have to have that perfect tension. When I started studying this connection concept with Ikeda sensei, it's like when you make contact, there's just enough tension there to be able to move uke without them even feeling like you're moving. That's ultimately where you want to get with connection, but it's just something that you have to feel. Much like, when you're doing a judo throw, you're feeling uke's balance. You're breaking his kazushi, breaking his balance, and that's what we're really having to do with every technique in order to make it work.
There's another question in the chat, Sensei. The movement of the hands is kaishiki, like the josuburi? Question mark. Do you see that one in the chat? Sorry, I might be pronouncing it very badly.
No, you aren't.
Movement of the hands is like josuburi. If you mean in the here?
Yes, he's nodding yes.
Yes. Yeah, you could look at that like you were doing a move like that with the jo. But the more important thing is the hips, the body. It's not this. That's just arms disconnected from my body. So yeah, if you were making that kind of a strike with the jo, similar. Yeah, there's a lot of overlap between the weapons and things that we do. Any other questions?
None so far in the chat.
Okay. All right, we've got, I think, about 8 or 9 more minutes left. Now, you can do irimi nage just because you want to do irimi nage against a shomanuchi. But sometimes it just sort of happens that way, where you've started to go in for ikkyo, but you're late, and the arm that was supposed to catch this part of the arm ends up here instead. So same initial move to get out of the way. I'm in the right hanmi, they're striking with the right hand. I get out of the way, and enter a little bit, pointing my foot directly at uke. So what I do is I just slide as I'm stepping in. I slide to where this arm is aimed at uke's face. And I have a little move that I do where I make connection at the hip with this other hand. And with my body, see that movement that I'm doing as I'm entering? I've now taken their balance. They have one foot here and one foot there. So where's the 0 spot? Right here. So once I come in, then I throw them where they don't have feet to balance them. So we start out in right hanmi, right hand is coming in, go in here. Now what I do, and I've seen people do this successfully, but I don't like doing it that way, where once you're in and you have uke's head here on your shoulder, and you're holding uke's head here, what I've seen people do is cut them down forward, spin them around, bring them back up again and throw them. And I'm not saying it's wrong, it's just not my preference. I've had a lot of karate practitioners that were my students, and also judokas and people in jiu-jitsu. And what I've found is that quite often, if you didn't have that perfect, they'd grab your legs and knock you down. So what I do instead is I enter, I get uke loaded up here, and I take them up rather than down, up and back. And then they're so off balance that, as Lisa Sensei says, they just drop. You don't even really have to throw them. So try it that way. But again, remember what I said in the beginning, treat what I'm teaching today as a buffet, okay? All right, so let's right foot, we go in, we've deflected the arm, use the hand on the hip before you bring it up to capture the head, and then think of bringing them up and back and come around, and then you can just drop them right there. And I've gotten through the years where in the early days, everybody was doing big break falls. And as I got older, my body said, we're not doing this anymore. So I started learning how to do smaller movements and either spiraling uke down or just, as Sensei was saying earlier, just get their balance, take their balance away so much that they just pretty much fall and your work is done. So let's try this a few times if you'd like. And it's not just my hand, I'm doing it with my body, and it also gets me more out of the way and gets uke loaded up on my shoulder, their head on my shoulder. Step in and bring them around and up. I'm going to disconnect my arms from my body for a minute just to show you the upward movement, but I'm doing it with my body. And then I just let them drop right there. And to the extent you can, try to keep your hands in front of you. With shoulder issues, sometimes it looks like I'm drifting, but I try to at least keep my arm here, not out here like Sensei was saying earlier. You want to keep your arm here. So you go in, off balance, bring them up and backwards. So I'm going to be okay, so you can see, excuse my back. I'm striking, and this is what's happening to me until I fall, rather than down here and back up again. As uke, I'm going to end up going backwards until I fall. So I'm gonna go in, I'll set the balance, load the head onto the shoulder, and then just drop them right there. And you're welcome to try that if you like. All right, I think we only have about 2 minutes left. Any other questions, comments? Anything in the chat, Kay?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay. Well, let me just emphasize what I started with. I think it's important to remember why we do what we do, to think about it, and that can be an evolving process. I don't know that in any one class that, I mean, you might have aha moments in a class, but it's an evolving process. I know that I've learned more about that, and I've learned more about balance studying with Lisa Sensei. And secondly, very important, get out of the way. And third, get connection. And then finally, balance is also very critical to making the techniques effective. It's been a pleasure. And again, I'm just so flattered that I was asked to teach, and happy to be with you. So let's bow out, and I'll leave the rest of my 1 minute to Sensei. Arigato gozaimashita.